Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at what to look for in a property. This time focus on the renovation aspects, more towards actually planning the process of renovating the property. As you know, my strategy is buy, renovate, refinance, rent. It's turned out very profitable for me. This helps you capture some regular monthly income, which is great, and it also allows you to make money on the property as well by increasing its value, which is good. What I want to start with is planning the renovation. When you go into a house for the first time to go and view it, this is when the planning the renovation bit should start. Prior to actually going to view the house, you'll be looking at the house on Rightmove, you'll be looking at the pictures, maybe on Zoopla as well, or on the market, and you're looking at the pictures and you're seeing like, what could I do to this house to make it work? Is it a bomb site? Is it grim? If it is, money can be made. It's great. That's what you should be looking for, in my opinion. If you don't want to do work to the house, it's probably the video for you. When you go in there and plan the renovation, you've seen all the work that needs doing on the house. So you go in there to actually look at the specifics and try and cost it up a little bit. Before you go in there, you should have a list of what to look for in terms of maintenance. So when you go in there, you think of if the carpets are like red with diamond crosses on them. One of the houses I bought did have those. Fully swanky in 20 years ago, 30 years ago, not so cool now. So you want to think about potentially new carpets or new flooring. How much is that going to cost you? You can find that out. Go to B&Q, go to Wix, and look at the flooring that you want to install within that house. When you're actually in the property, bring your tape measure out the floor dimensions, and get a good area of the floors, so you can do the floors effectively. You can take it off what it says on Rightmove, but just for your own security and for your own peace of mind, you can measure it yourself, just using a standard tape measure. And again, B&Q, Wix, look at flooring that's relatively inexpensive, just something that looks nice and modern and fresh, and just cost it up. If you're wondering to cost it up, it's a simple calculation. You measure the length of the room, then you measure the width of the room. You times the length by the width. That'll give you the square meterage of that area, and then all the prices in these stores are by square meter. So then you can just multiply the price by the square meter. It's not a difficult calculation. If you are wondering, just leave a comment and I'll answer you, or give you a more in-depth talk about the maths behind it. The next thing to look at as well in terms of planning it is looking at like paint work. So you're looking at how many rooms are you going to need to repaint, how many coats are you going to need to use. This will be second nature to you. You'll be able to just look at pictures on Rightmove after you bought your first or second house and just know how much it's going to cost you for like new carpets, maybe replacing a toilet seat and then parts of the kitchen. Just doing a light renovation, you'll be able to just look at it and just know. If you've got a bright pink room, like one of the houses that I bought, that took me 6 coats of white paint to get rid of that. That was a lot. Paint's not particularly expensive. For the white magnesium, the brilliant white, it was like 15 litres and it was like £30. It wasn't that much. But they used 2 of those, which 60 quid. You know, small things like this come out because the room wasn't massive. Each wall was probably like, I don't know, 8 square meters. It wasn't particularly massive. Another additional thing you can think about is sanding. So to condition the walls to make them nice and smooth, you can use a rotary sander, or you can sand it by hand. But get a rotary sander, they're like 25 quid, 30 quid for a cheap one. It's not hard. Just slap it on the front and you can sand away, and it's fine. This can save you. This gives you a nice smooth finish on the wall. Again, I'm explaining these things for someone that hasn't done property before, hasn't bought a house, hasn't done any sort of paint work. This will all be second nature to someone that's ever painted before. It's just the steps in order to paint it. It's just giving you like a heads up on what's ahead. These are the relatively small costs. The flooring, the walls, relatively inexpensive. Now, bigger things that you need to look at is potentially new bathrooms. For example, like tiling, or you might be changing the layout of the bathroom. For example, new showers, new baths, new sinks, you might want to change that setup around. If it's your first house and you're not feeling confident, just keep it the setup that it is. With my first house, there was a green bath in there. There was a cast iron bath. If you ever felt how heavy a cast iron bath is, it is insanely heavy. The 3 fully grown builders couldn't lift it. So what we decided to do was just recondition it, paint it white, and it looked amazing afterwards. I can leave some links to the property as well. If the current tenant is happy for me to do that, I'll check first. So yeah, with the first house, it's about keeping it keep it simple. Keep the renovation simple, because there's a lot to kind of mess up on, and the workload is going to be longer than you initially anticipate. But again, coming back on topic, because went on a bit of a side there, but coming back on topic, working out what you need in terms of maintenance. If you feel confident, a new boiler, it's about £1,200 from my plumber offering me that price. That's another big cost. I'm going to come on to major big costs a bit later on in the video. But the next section that I want to talk about is knowing tradespeople. Now, I met my tradespeople on nights out. It was actually quite mad. I used to go out and just go out in Manchester, and I'd just get talking to people, wherever that may be, and find out the job. If I found out they were a tradesperson, I used to get the phone number, and then when I bought my first house, or when I was going looking at houses, I used to give them a ring and be like, hey, I'm going to view this house, could you come along with me and price it up? And that worked quite well for me. Sometimes I built a relationship with these tradespeople outside of property. And again, what I talked about in a previous video of soft skills is that those soft skills help you forge those bonds with people, which is great. Networking, in my opinion, I want to network constantly, really. Even in my normal social life, I think networking is really important. If it wasn't for networking, I wouldn't have saved thousands of pounds on my labour costs with tradesmen. As simple as that. If you're not a particularly social person, you don't particularly like going out, you can look for the conventional means, such as finding tradespeople online, recommendations from friends, recommendations from family. You can find it by these means, but I personally found it better when I met these people in person and formed a somewhat relationship with them outside of work. Now, when you're looking at a property, you've got the big ones that you want to look for. The big ones can be structural, so cracks in the walls that are more than just plaster cracks and look like they're going to the brickwork. Cracks along the floor near the foundations, the base of the property. The roof could be classed as structural, but I'll class the roof as a separate section. Missing tiles, missing slates, leaking at the top. Any sort of mould going down, missing lead if it's got lead pieces on the roof, and also the boiler. So the boiler, as I said, is about 1.2k. I find to fit a normal combi boiler in a house. Again, wherever you are in the country will determine how expensive that would be. Me in the north, it's about that much, but in London, it can be like over £2,000 for it, maybe even higher than that. Again, more emphasis on knowing good tradespeople. The fourth and final big one is damp. Looking at damp on a wall, you might find it on the ground floor, let's say, and you might find it raising up from the floor, and it'll just look white and patchy. You can just Google this and be able to see what damp looks like. Buying a house with damp is not too bad if you can negotiate it off the asking price. However, so you can use this as a talking point. However, if there's a first house dealing with damp, unless you know the tradespeople and you know you're not going to get ripped off for fixing that issue, for fixing damp, then I'd stay away from it. If you know the tradespeople well, you're not going to get ripped off, and go for it. It'll allow you to pull the price of the house down. Knowing the tradespeople again is important for that aspect. The better you know the tradespeople and you know how they work, and the longer you've worked with them, the worse of a condition house that you can go with. As I mentioned before, the big ones, structurally unstable property. If it's your first house and you're not an engineer, don't go for it at all. I'd stay away from that. Avoid it. If you make a single mistake, you could lower the value of the house. You can make it unmortgageable. If you are not kind of trained to deal with that, or you don't feel confident doing that. However, after a while, similar, I feel like I've not bought a house yet that's structurally unstable, but I will probably go into this because there's a lot of money to be made. If you buy a structurally unstable property, sometimes you can't get a mortgage, and it's difficult to kind of know the people that can put that right. But recently I graduated in mechanical engineering, and we've done a lot on structure, so looking at a survey that a structural engineer would provide to me, I would understand what they're showing me, essentially, because you kind of cover that stuff within modules on the course that I studied. And if you've not studied something engineering based, you can always go out and try and study it, because the more informed that you are about it, the less the less likely you are to make a mistake, which is great. And dealing with something that's structural increases the chance of making a mistake and increases the chance of that mistake spectacularly messing up, which is why there's a lot of money to be made in there. The next topic I want to cover is getting good with Excel or Google spreadsheets. This is really important. What you can do here is write a list of all the things that you want to cover, or write a list of all the things that are on the renovation list. For example, your carpets, your walls, your sanding, potential labour costs if you need to bring anyone in, such as plumbers, you might need a new toilet, for example. All these different things. You write them all in Excel. You write down the cost that you think it's going to cost you at that date. Potentially even attach the URLs to the products that you might want. That might be a bit too... If you're genuinely serious about buying the property and you feel like you're going to put an offer in, then you're going to need to know these costs anyway in order to work out how much property is worth and how much you're going to offer on it. So then that's why getting good with Excel and Google Sheets, or Google Sheets either or, is going to be really useful for you. I may produce some sort of spreadsheet that might help with this, so you can use that. Following on from that point, totaling it up, working out how much all this renovation is going to cost you. With my first house, my total renovation, I budgeted £2,500, ended up costing me only £6,000 because I thought I could do most of the work myself. It's a huge mistake on my part. I was pretty naive at the time. I haven't made that mistake again since, but it's important because you learn from your previous mistakes. And that's why I'm getting this information out to you, because you can mess up spectacularly by doing miscalculation or be overconfident in the amount of work that you can do, which is exactly what I did as soon as I started that house. However, the good thing that I can take away from that is I finished the house and it's very profitable. I make an 11% return on investment from it, and it's gone up in value. It's increased in value over £30,000 or £40,000 now. So that £4,000 overset is less than 10% of what the property is worth now. So it's worth getting involved, because those little short-term negatives are massively outweighed by the great mid to short-term positives that property brings. The next thing I want to discuss is making an offer. How is the data that you've gathered from this property in terms of the renovation costs and your potential budget going to affect the asking price of the house? Now this bit's really useful, because what you can do now is you've got a total price on how much it's going to cost you to perform that renovation. Say, I don't know, you've budgeted it's going to cost you £5,000. To the estate agent, you can say those labour costs might not be sure, so you can put like a 20% margin on that, just in case. So make it £6,000 or something along those lines. The house is on the market for £80,000, then you want to get the price, you want to get the property at £74,000, let's say. So you might want to put in an offer that's slightly lower, lower than that. So I'd probably offer 68 at that point. So you offer 68, I'd say the reasons of why you've offered that based on £80,000. I'd say why you've offered that. You can say it's for legal fees. And then what I find normally is that the estate agent puts in a counter offer that's slightly lower, and then you've put in another offer again that's slightly higher, and then they kind of work the way out to that £74,000 that you wanted initially as a target. Now, that's worked for all three houses that I've bought. It's worked every single time, that method, to get it for the price that I want. And I've not attempted just to offer the price that I want as an end one off the bat. because I don't believe it'd work. I feel like psychology, I'm not a psychologist, I just don't think that'd work. And based on my experience, what I've done so far has worked. So if you've experienced putting an offer and having it accepted, then great. Well, let me know in the comments, that'd be really useful. Maybe I could learn a bit from you. But yeah, making that offer is important, based off the figures that you've got, and you can explain to the estate agent why. If you're feeling a bit more confident, you know, with doing something with a bad boiler or a bad roof, these are great things. You can always explain things to the estate agent in an absolute worst case scenario. So your boiler's gone, you might need half a new roof or even a new roof, but you know, you might need a few slates replacing, but then, you know, in a worst case scenario, you could need a new roof. So in these cases, you can say, look, I need X amount of money for the boiler, I need X amount of money for the roof, and it really helps bring the asking price down, which is what you want to do. That's the point in doing these spreadsheets and getting a good renovation budget. Well, part of the point. So, I'm going to take away anything from this video. Getting to know your tradespeople, getting good with Excel and planning out the renovation in detail, and using the data that you get from your spreadsheet to make an offer and make a good offer on the property that is in your interests and well, benefits both parties really. Again, if you've got any questions, just leave a comment and I will get back to you. Alright, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, then please like it. We've got a lot more videos in the pipeline, so if you like what you see, subscribe to us for weekly videos. I'll see you in the next one.